Let's drop it. Let's drop it. Oh, you know what? Well, I'll have the Wi-Fi in the back, in the cut. I'll have the Wi-Fi in the cut. I'm here. I'm here clear and loud. Let's do it. 2 p.m. Saturday. I'm experimenting with a live kind of slash podcast, NBA Alchemy. I didn't know at the time. I thought Saturday night, people are out. Saturday morning, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of a little bit experimental, so rock with me here. Let me make sure. I'm going to double check that it is on the Patreon page here, that it's streaming and working fine, at least for that. And obviously, we're finally hit, a slow point in the NBA season, I guess, if you will. And don't tell me I'm logged out on here. I never logged out. Let's see. Anyway, so I'll edit this out here if it doesn't work out. But yeah, maybe my phone is the better way to go. What does it say here? Someone holler at me if you're watching. 2 watching. That probably just means me. Someone's watching. Anyway, I guess this could just be a recording, a pod. So I will get into my shit. Okay, Jason, what's good, man? What up, y'all? Yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't sure the timing, weird timing on a weekend. I did a deep dive on this Zion video. And that's what I've been doing this week. But I was like, I wanted to hit a pod. I wanted to hit something live. So I was like, let me do a live/pod. Those of y'all that are here, you know what I'm saying? Missed coverage of the second Warriors-Lakers game. I think so. There was one summer league game that I didn't do. You missed. I think I did the second Laker one. Did they play a third one? I didn't cover the last summer league game that was part of the non-tournament. And they sat all the rookies. It was like the Ware guy, and it was the end of the bench guys that never got to play. And so, to be honest with you, I was just like, nah, man, I'm not trying to talk about these dudes. I see what you're saying, Post. Yeah, that's what I was trying to go over to my Patreon. It doesn't really matter. Again, I'm going to use this as a podcast and kind of as a recording, but I thought it'd be cool to just mess with the live feature of it. But I'm over on there. I'm trying to send okay, here we go. Give me a sec here. Why can't I scroll down on this? This is unopt. Is it over here? But yeah, I'm gonna I'm not even gonna worry about it. I'm gonna let it be what it's gonna be. Yeah, the rookies were out of it. Okay, now it wants to hit that. Now, why isn't it here? Okay, posts. Give me 1 sec. There. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to send out the notification. I don't have it live. Let's do this. My bad. See, this is the experience of being live and not all the way operational with it. Hopefully that sent it out, but either way. All right, let's get on with this thing here. The first thing, again, there's not going to be, obviously we finally hit kind of like a quiet spot in the NBA. News breaking, summer league's over and all that, and the big trades. I do want to talk a little bit more about the D'Angelo Russell thing. I posted the interview, and by all accounts, everything he's saying sounds good, man. Everything he's saying sounds good. And let me get this chat window open. I know people thinking the Rockets are contenders, but people think a lot of crazy shit, man. To be honest with you, there's a lot of crazy things. But I want to get into the D'Lo thing because I'm thinking about it. One, I know Rick Bucher is kind of a controversial media member in the Bay Area for things he's said and done in the past, and people aren't too fond of him. What's good, man? What's good, Donovan? So what we're talking about, those of you that are joining here for the live pod, we're talking about D'Angelo Russell, his value. And what I was getting into was Rick Bucher was on his latest podcast was kind of talking about if you talk to the Nets, it was like he was keeping it really tight to the vest, but if you read between the lines, what he was saying was like, yo, D'Angelo is not that mature. Like behind the scenes, the Nets were doing and saying all the right things, but if you talk to their players, he still has some growing up to do. And okay, that's fine. I've been impressed by everything he's saying, all the right things, and the Warriors are saying all the right things. But it got me to thinking, whether, and I'll get a little bit into what Bob Myers has said about, we want to see what he is. We're not looking to trade him. That's like the obvious thing to say, right? But let's be honest. He is an asset, and he has a certain value right now coming off an all-star season. They do not want to decrease that asset. They were talking about, what's the Nets coach's name? He looks like House MD. Kenny Atkinson, right? And Bucher was saying how Atkinson was very hard on him. They would bench him in meaningful moments in games, and they had a tight leash on him in order to rein him in and kind of mature him as a player. And it is just going to be really interesting to see Steve Kerr and the Warriors. Are they going to treat him as if like, yo, we're developing you for the long haul, and you may have to take a few steps back to take some forward, or take one step back to take a few forward, right? But that may decrease his value at the present time, right? Or are they going to kind of go into this and understand like, yo, until we get Clay back in this season, we're probably not championship contenders. I know it's throwing away a prime year of Steph Curry, but are they going to showcase D'Lo in the first few months of this season just to increase his value? Let me get a swig of water here. I'm still recovering from this little cold, man. I don't get sick often, but when I do, it lingers, man. Damn. Catching up on some of the comments again. Those of you that are joining me live here, we got like 25 people in here now, so that's what's up. Possibly jam session. I like the optimism. But what I was getting at was, let's say they take that approach of, all right, I'm not too concerned with this season. We get in or we don't. We're a 7th or 8th seed, whatever. I don't know. There's so much up in the air, right? But it doesn't look like, I myself don't expect us to be contending for a championship. I think we should be a playoff team, but like, right? And so let's say they take the approach of showcasing D'Lo. They give him a longer leash. They up his stats, look good, and he's getting, I mean, he could. I don't think he will with Draymond on the roster and the system. But those assist numbers, a lot of them were in the pick and roll, but he should be able to fill the stat sheet. I'm not sure what kind of rebounder he is, but he should be efficient. But let's say they up his value, and what are some of the moves? Now, I already mentioned Ben Simmons. I already mentioned Aaron Gordon. Right? Philadelphia, that matches. It fits perfect pick and roll with Joel Embiid. I've said that. Aaron Gordon. Orlando was said to be interested in D'Lo. They have been since he's been available. It could be an Aaron Gordon, Markelle Fultz type of thing. Excuse me. Now, the other marquee guy that fits really well with the Warriors that would be bomb is Bradley Beal. Right? He is the prize possession kind of left on the open market right now, I guess you'd say. He's 26 years old, but he's a guy, because Clay's natural maturation, I know you say, all right, well, you're moving Clay to the 3 to fit D'Angelo in. Clay's probably going to start to play more 3, more small forward as he enters his 30s. That's just going to be his natural process. So now you've got Steph, Beal, and Clay. I say now, but you know what I'm saying? That would be the theory behind it. And believe it or not, they both make $27 million a year. So you could trade them straight away December 15th. D'Angelo Russell for Bradley Beal. Now, that's not a very good trade. You say they already have John Wall. I don't know, man. Do the Wizards even have a GM right now? You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. If we made him look that appealing, I'm just throwing that out there, because Beal would be a dude that matches the primes. He's a little bit younger, but he's in his prime now, and he fits exactly the Warrior system. He doesn't need the ball in his hands. He's a versatile. He's a defender, non-nonsense type of dude, right? That would be an amazing fit. That would be a power move if we copped Beal in ultimately replacing Durant. So I'm throwing that out there. The more realistic thing might be, I'm looking. What I did is I just brought up all NBA teams, all 27 or 27. How many are we at now? 30, 31? I don't know. I'm not going to front like I know. I brought up all the NBA teams, and I'm looking up at the rosters. And then the other team that is the other realistic thing I think could be the New York Knicks. RJ Barrett obviously is not a point guard. They don't have a point guard. What they do have is like 5 power forwards, right? Julius Randle and Frank Ntilikina, something along those lines. Now, Randle's on a 2-year, $18 million at each year, so it'd have to be another guy to throw in, but they really have the cap to absorb it anyway. It could be Randle for D'Lo straight up, and I believe New York could absorb that. And now you only have Randle on a 2-year deal, so it's not a huge commitment, but he is an interesting piece. I think if you put a bunch of shooting around Julius Randle, you guys that have, listened and followed me for a while, I like Randle. And so he would be a really interesting piece to pair with Draymond in our shooters mid-season. I don't know. What's good, Connor? Yeah, that's exactly. I see that popped up. That's what I saw. Randle and take your pick. I mean, New York could absorb him for just straight up for D'Lo. We could get like a Ntilikina back, or I doubt you get any of their guys they like, meaning like Knox or Mitchell or Barrett, God forbid. That wouldn't happen, right? That's not a fair value unless D'Angelo was playing nuts. But you'd send him back to the New York area where he's already popular. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, the Knicks and the Wizards are the two teams that I've brought up that their front offices lead you to believe that anything is possible, good or bad, right? And so those are my prospects. Beal would be ideal. I don't think we have another asset to trade to make it of equal value. Beal is clearly a notch above D'Angelo Russell. I know you say, oh, they're both all-stars, but it's not that. If you watch them play, Beal's better. And so if we already traded our first-round picks, I don't know what other things we could add in to make that a value. The other possibility would be is if Poole or Evans in the beginning of the season, more likely Evans showed value as a nice prospect, and then you throw that in. So it'd be like Jacob Evans, D'Angelo Russell for Bradley Beal. Because most of these teams that are after Beal are not going to be able to offer up a 23-year-old all-star. They want to give you hella future picks and a bunch of prospects. So I don't know. Yeah, the Wiggins thing. And I had forgot, excuse me, I had forgot how much, is it Covington? No, Connaughton is the white kid in Milwaukee. Robert Covington, when Philly gave him a $80 million bag. So that Minnesota deal doesn't necessarily have to involve Wiggins, as I looked at the numbers, because Covington is on an $80 million deal. So it could be Covington, the kid from Texas Tech, Culver, who I'm not too fond of, but he's a prospect, and something else to make the numbers work. It doesn't necessarily have to be Wiggins. And then Minnesota could have the big three of Towns, Wiggins, and D'Lo. They'll have a lot of fun on some boats. No, I don't know. Yeah, there's so many guys like that with the athleticism it kind of goes hand in hand, right? The theory is saying, and Donovan's saying Wiggins is all natural athleticism and no skills. And that's, my theory of how I'm always talking about basketball environment and what develops. And when you're freakishly athletic, quick, you can jump. It's very likely you have less fundamentals. You never had to learn them. You never had to learn like a triple threat and a rip through. You just got the ball and went, right? And you see that all the time. And then you see the guys that learn both and work through, and then you have a superstar, right? LeBron James. Westbrook's pretty fundamentally sound. I can't wait to watch this Westbrook Harden shit. And now they're reporting that I read the blurb today. Harden is cool with CP. Okay, cool, yeah. Why feed us bullshit? Why feed us bullshit? And I'm realizing I'm trying to shout you guys out for the audience that's watching this later or just going to be listening to it of me answering these questions. I guess I got to say them out. What's good, Ezra? What's good? Saturday afternoon, chilling, man, chilling. Trying to get I know I've spoken on this on a personal tip. I haven't been able to train in like 6, 7 weeks, man, because of this calf. And I'm just discouraged, man. It's my age. I'll be 36 in November, and it's just got scar tissue in it. Like, I'm not limping around or anything, but I know enough that I can't play. And it's got this scar tissue built up on the bottom of the calf. So I've been kind of diving into, you see my setup's a little different here, trying to polish things up. I got stuff coming, man. I'm looking to take another big jump this next season, and with just my content, what I'm going to be covering, and like studying the game and just trying to get better at it. So I'm kind of just burying myself in that. Pilates. Yeah, dude, I've been working here. And I don't want to bore y'all too much with this, because that's a pet peeve of mine when you turn on pods and they're talking about some just random shit. But this is sports related at least. Here's what I've been hearing conflicting things with the scar tissue. The scar, I know, I don't want to tear the Achilles, but it's high enough up. I know it's the calf. But here's the thing. So, most people say you rub across the fiber of the buildup, but that seems to make it sore. And then there's some that are in the minority that say you rub down and with it. There's a certain technique to rub it out that way. And so I'm just going back and forth and having setbacks, and it's just kind of wet. But anyway, let's get back on to some of the things I wanted to talk about in this off season. Again, the Zion piece I posted yesterday for you big game patrons, and I'm pretty pleased with how it came out, man. And I don't, for those of you that aren't able to see it, don't worry. You're gonna get my Zion take eventually. It's gonna be a huge topic on the season. But what I wanted to talk about was his weight. Remember, I've said this before this was popping. It's funny how mainstream media, that was like a subject this week, like Zion, and was looking big and like all that. Like immediately I was like, oh, this dude's getting hella big. Like already, we seen this coming. And those of you that didn't catch it, that he was getting roasted, there was a picture of him on the bench for the final Summer League games. By the way, Pelicans look nice, man. The Pelicans look scary. And they were roasting him. Twitter was going in on him, NBA Twitter. A few of my favorites: Calamari Stoudemire, Bradley Meal, Karan Butter, Shastilio Meal, and Derek Flavors. So they were going in on Zion. And to be honest with you, I think it was a good thing. I think it's a good thing early on to get, like, you don't want that, Zion, right? You don't want that. And so maybe just an eye opener, like if as hopefully it didn't, no, in today's world, everybody's like, oh, shaming, and especially something like that, like fat shaming, and oh, how dare you. I'm just saying, big picture, the confidence from what I've gauged. I watched this whole week. I watched for that Zion piece. I went back and watched 10 Duke games. I didn't want to I had already watched, and that was gone back and watched. I already watched him 5-6 times live, but I wanted to go back and watch. And then I read about his, I did a whole deep dive into it to come up with how I felt about it. But anyway, I think his confidence, he'll be just fine. I don't think he's going to be too butthurt about it, but I think it'll be just enough to motivate him to realize, like, yo, dude, you are getting fat. Have some self-awareness. And the Pelicans got to get on it. I'll give you a little insider on that video. One of my suggestions was, you've heard the legend of Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker, right? I'll get to these questions here in a second. But you've heard the legends of Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker. The legend has it, that's one of my favorite 30-30s, by the way, is the Bo Jackson one, is once he got to college, they banned him from the weight room. They were like, Bo, man, you can only do push-ups and sit-ups, bro. Like, you can't. You're becoming like a bodybuilder. You're getting too big. And I think Zion has some of that DNA where, like, if he's in the weight room, he's just going to get bigger and bigger, man. Even if you have him on a meal plan, he's going to be too heavy. And so I'd keep him the hell out of the weight room. You got to obviously do strengthening core stuff, but just stay away from the dumbbells. That 30-30 was money, wasn't it? And then I believe Herschel Walker was along those same lines. Now that the Warriors are going to be less covered, do you have any other ideas to promote your channel? I know that your channel is mainly Warriors-related topics. I'll forgive me if I'm butchering the name, Koski. I appreciate that. Well, the big game tier, if you guys aren't aware, is where I'm going to be covering other teams. So yeah, I'm slowly merging into covering the entire league, right? And so I think the way the league is, honestly, all this player movement and player empowerment is good for me, because it's not the same old, same old. And even initially, the shock of this team turnover, it's good for me personally because there's so much more to talk about. Half the roster is new. There's so much more to talk about. And so, yeah, the big game coverage I'm going to be covering on non-Warrior nights. Sometimes I'll do a doubleheader if it warrants it. But you're gonna get a look at across like all the rookies, all the super teams or whatever you want to call them with that. And then my plan is to be efficient because those breakdowns take a lot of time, man. Like that are 15 minutes long because I watch the game live, the notes, all that is for the YouTube. What I'll do is I'll have an NBA Alchemy like this, a podcast, and then I'll just drop snippets of that on YouTube to have content and on Twitter and Instagram and to pull people in. And every now and then just drop a whole video. But that's the plan moving forward. But not just within covering, I'm not talking about just expanding as far as covering other teams. That's a definite. But I want to increase the quality of my breakdowns. So that means for me, studying more about basketball, learning more and figuring out better ways to explain and nuance and just be unique with it. Be unique with it and get you stuff that you're not seeing anywhere else. So expect that coming. I'm in the lab with a pen and a pad. Steph says, hell no to load management. TJ, is that a quote? I have to admit, I haven't been up on this week. I was just in the lab. It was all Zion. I was walking around saying, if I'm Zion, I'm lying. If I'm Zion, I'm lying. So is Steph saying no, the limit of minutes? Did he do an interview? I was aware of the one thing on social media we'll get into here in a second, but I didn't know I think are you just anticipating him saying that? Because basketball breakdown, I appreciate his knowledge. Like he seems like he's a decent basketball mind. The ads have got too crazy on it, right? The ads have gotten a little too crazy. It's like every 2 minutes, he's like, speaking of this, why don't you get hymns? It's like, bro, calm down. Like at least I have way too much integrity in what I do to do ridiculous clickbait stuff. I'll play the game a little bit, right? But I'm not going to do some of this shit. Did y'all see something that came up on my YouTube timeline or whatever you want to call it, algorithm? Some dude had made a thumbnail of Carmelo at a press conference with the Warriors background. And it was like, Melo signs with the Warriors. So I'm going to click it. And then the whole thing was like, what if Melo, like, it just talked about Melo. It didn't even say, like, what if he signed with the Warriors? The shit was disgusting. And it had like 1 million views. I'm not willing to play that game. I'm not. Let me catch up on a little of these questions here. Nara, I believe it's Nara. I appreciate Nara asking how you guys can help me branch out. Just sharing it on social media, just sharing it on Twitter, Instagram. I've realized Twitter is much more of like, I think my demographic, and that's why you've seen me fall back from YouTube a little bit. I've realized that YouTube is a lot more kids. NBA Twitter is the more adults. I feel like my content's a little more adult based. But I try to be diverse with it. But yeah, just spread the word, honestly. And if you leave like as simple as like likes or retweets or shares and comments on YouTube or whatever it is, that helps boost the algorithm. But to be honest with you, that's not my strong suit. It is a weak spot that I'm trying to get better at as far as like marketing and getting out there more. And that I'm more of a creator. Like I focus on, I'm like, if the content's good, it will get there, right? And so I've maybe neglected that a little bit, and I need to get better at it. Kelly is asking, do you think that KD would finally be fulfilled in life if you win a championship in Brooklyn? I don't think KD will ever be fulfilled, right? Everything, and who am I to say that? And, maybe what I think? I think KD will find more fulfillment when he creates a family. I think when he creates a family, and who am I to say? Maybe he doesn't even want that. But I just think that some of the soul searching and the lack of identity that he has can be relieved once you're no longer just living for yourself. It would be my take. But no, I don't, and I don't think the Nets are gonna be a thing. Call me a hater, man. I don't think the Nets are gonna be a thing. Like I think they'll be a playoff team, but they're not gonna be a contender. I don't see it, man. I really don't. Maybe it's just the saltiness in me. I don't know. Did I have any KD talk on here that I wanted to talk about? Not really. I didn't have a whole. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of basketball things. Just a lot of hypotheticals. Oh, whoa! I got to catch up on these questions here a little bit. Yeah, as I'm trying to. I just got over. So I've got over. Last thing I'll say about my personal training is the calf thing. Now I've come to the realization where it's like, all right, I've been out of the gym too long, just trying to rest and kind of sulk about it. That now I'm gonna have to do something else, whether it be for 90 days or a couple more weeks. Like I'm gonna have to hit weights or just train, find other things, and move on from there, and maybe do some vlogging. As Amaya's, she just joined her first club team, so that's a big commitment. We're gonna be going to tournaments every weekend. That's exciting. Let me see here. I wish this chat stuff was a little more organized. Oh, it's pretty organized. Okay. Oh, did you have that comment before me with the kids stuff there? Jams? We're on the same wavelength? Okay, yeah, you heard it. Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying, man. It's not some, and it's one of those things you don't know till you know. You can't explain, and I'm not saying like, oh, this makes me this or that, but until you are a parent, it's just one of those things you don't really feel it. You can't. There's no way to describe it. You can only feel it. And it comes with a whole lot of other stuff too that it may not be positive. I did. So the Zion one is along those lines, asking about as far as like the Mamba and the Doncic. So the Zion's is along that line. The thing is, there's only so many, like I'm going to make it into that format, but Luka, Kobe, these guys, there's only so many of those guys. It's not really, I think part of how dope it was, look at me toot my own horn, was in part who they are and their story. So I can't fabricate the story or the player. There has to be the opportunity to make it, right? Which one of the rookies do you think will have the biggest impact? So this season, see these. I wish I could have saw more of these guys at at Summer League. I think Zion will. That's the easy answer. As long as Zion's healthy. Let me rack my brain. Or are you thinking about Warrior rookies? Because Warrior rookies, everything that I've heard is that they really like Pascal. Is it Pascal? Eric Pascal? He's like 23. He's old, relatively old. And I think that he will be given the most opportunity early on to have an impact, right? As far as the Warriors. And then Zion's going to be healthy, man. He's going to play 35 minutes. And with all the passers and what his opportunity is going to give him, it's going to be the top guys, right? RJ Barrett's going to put up crazy inefficient numbers. Barrett's going to put up 25 shots and score 18, 19 points. What up, Kendrick? And was it Kendrick? And forgive me if I'm wrong with that, because anyway, there's different names to deal with. But were you asking me about the Kawhi holding out on the Lakers so they sabotaging them essentially? That's been the talk. The Lakers and Raptors were salty. They've complained to the league about the Kawhi handlings. And so that was a take that I had to think about and listen to a little bit. And a couple of points that, again, I'm not making, these aren't like revelations, but if in Kawhi waiting and holding out and kind of trying to use the Lakers and Raptors as supposed leverage, he also cost the Clippers the biggest bag we've ever seen to acquire Paul George. So there was some give and take with that, right? And then I just also think that this is inevitable. This is inevitable in any relationship. And you see, it's an unfortunate thing in like real relationships, right? But like, people kind of hold out to see more so younger, you get into my age and you're older and adults, then you see people settling. But young relationships, you see people holding out for what's better or just holding, it's just an inevitable thing. I'd argue that can't the teams do the same thing? Couldn't the Warriors flirt with a player to ensure the Suns don't get him type of thing, right? It's just a two-way street. And I guess I wanted to speak a little bit. I don't know how many of you closely follow the NFL, but the NFL's right as kind of on the other end of this spectrum. It's the players have pretty much no power, right? And that's why you see a lot more disgruntled players and holdouts. And Jadeveon Clowney is a defensive. He's a hybrid pass rusher. And defenses in the NFL have blurred the lines on where guys move. They move all around the line. They're down in 3-point stance. Sometimes they drop back as linebackers in coverage, right? So Clowney is a hybrid. Let's pretend he's Draymond Green, right? He can play center. He can play forward. He can play point forward, right? He's a hybrid pass rusher. And the NFL, is it the Texans? Yeah, he's on the Texans. Franchise tagged him, something that the NBA obviously doesn't have. Franchise tags. Sum it up, he gets paid as, I believe, in the top 3 or maybe it's 5 players at his position for that year. They can't come to a contract extension, right? They can't agree on a money. So for this year, they put the tag on him. They can only do it once. And it's like, all right, you'll get paid as a top 5 player at your position, right? And what the Texans did was they labeled him a linebacker, which is the pay is way less than the defensive end pass rusher. The top 5 pass rushers as a defensive end get way more bank. So they labeled him as a linebacker, costing him bread. And there's a dispute going on. Point is, I'm sorry if I've lost some of you here that don't follow football, is it's gotten nasty with the NFL. What the teams do, and it's a meat market. They can get cut at any times. And there's different reasons for that because of the risk of injury. But it's gotten really nasty, and the scandalous things that the teams do to, short players and vice versa and holdouts, it's gotten ugly, and I don't want to see the NBA get to that. I don't want to see a holdout, obviously, but I think that the players have to tread lightly with this whole player empowerment thing. Like I don't think what Kawhi did was nearly as bad. I've already said this. Do I have the sound bite still? Is as bad as what Paul George did. Right? Like, and I say that because it's like how many times can he ask out? And so again, different rules for different sports, but I think that they're going to have to be very careful with this power and the power of the players right now. Right. And so, what I suggest, I'm not a cap dude. I'm not one of these things. But what went through my mind is, you know how there's these trade kickers? And that's also been publicized about Anthony Davis, the trade kicker he waived to bring in Kawhi, and they didn't get Kawhi, $4 million. Trade kicker meaning if a player, it's in some players' contracts, if they are traded, they get a bonus, right? And so I think, is there a way to rework that where there's a trade kicker? If you go to your franchise and ask for a trade, then there's a kicker back to the team from that season. Now, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what the percentage would be, but basically it would incentivize at least the player to only ask for trades in the offseason, which is still not solving a lot of the problem, but it is worse, right? In November when a guy's like, I want out, that's just terrible for the season, right? So some way, if they can make a trade kicker like, okay, it's in your contract, cool, we're signing you here, but if you ask out, then we're entitled back pay, or compensation, and then whatever happens with the other team. I don't know the details, but something along those lines. But then would that just have players just acting crazy, passive aggressive? Like, I didn't ask out, but I am, taking shits at midcourt at practice. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm just saying we got to tread lightly with that. The Kawhi thing, I think, is just an inevitable thing. I thought the Paul George thing was worse than that, to be honest with you. What else do I have here on an NBA level? Not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot. I'm already, I don't know about y'all, I'm already thirsty. I'll go through these for basketball. I've been watching a little WNBA, studying because, my girls hoop and all that. And it kind of strikes me. I enjoy it. I enjoy the competitiveness of it. And you learn different things because the game's played so much different. But what strikes me is there's basically no ISO ball. And I'm sure girls are fully capable of it, but there's not really bucket getters. Like everything is is generated out of an offensive play. There's not like, you don't see someone just get broken down and score a bucket unless the clock's winding down. I think it's interesting. Caught John Wick 3, and you know what? To each their own. I really like the cinematography of it, right? But to me, it should be like a 20-minute short on YouTube, right? There's nothing mentally stimulating about the movie. But I mean, you kind of know when you sign up for that type of stuff, right? What else? Oh, this is okay. So let me bring this up here because I have it for y'all. I'm sure most of you saw this. Here we go. The internet is going crazy. Hey. I will run the Aisha for you one more time, right? The internet's going crazy.
Who picks the cheese on this? That's ridiculous. I missed that. Hey.
And then I will run this for you. Let's see if this runs audio. Again, apologize if this isn't the smoothest of... First off, yeah, she was tipsy. She was tipsy. But I had fun. I must admit, I had fun going through the roasting of it, and it is over the top. I think for me, I think that we talk about likability. I think there is a little bit of a sense of entitlement with Aisha, and that's what people are picking up on. Let's see if this plays audio.
Slow news day today, I see, huh? Just make sure y'all send me the video of you dancing at your own restaurant opening.
We're gonna keep Millie rocking until that happens. You know what I'm saying?
I hate you.
So much respect to Steph. I like that. But my thing is that I think at a certain point, and I know there's going to be pushback because this is, again, my opinion. At a certain point, I think Aisha may just need to fall back off social media. Because now I don't think Steph needs that right now. How much longer is Steph going to play basketball? 5 years? And maybe she needs that attention. We've already gone into that. But just maybe fall back or have someone review what you post. And, maybe she's going to go even harder and be like, I don't care about the haters. But it's slowly becoming a thing where the internet kills Aisha for like whatever she does. And so just fall back. I'm live your life, but I just don't. And here's my perspective of it is like, is it going to affect Steph's game at some point? That's, to be honest with you, that's what my mind goes. And so for me, I'm just like, all right, maybe just fall back. Like, you know what I mean? Or realize that you're in the spotlight and people are kind of out to hate on you. So it is what it is. But I got a big kick out of that. So the story goes that the internet was killing her for her dance. The internet doesn't like Aisha Curry. She doesn't have the sex appeal she thinks she has. A little bit of entitlement. In the past, she's gone on talk shows and talked about she would like more attention from men, and got looked at real sideways from Steph's mom and stuff. And so there's been this buildup of her on social media where people are just kind of just dissing her, man. And so at this point, it's kind of like, to me, like, fall back for the sake of your husband. Your husband has enough spotlight and pressure for both of you, but it is what it is. It is their life. Let me go back on these questions here before I lose them. It was... Okay, the challenge call. And Joseph, what you were asking, so Joseph, if you go back to the beginning of the pod, I went in on D-Lo. And so we'll have to see. I'll have plenty it takes. I'm not going to front like I know him that well. But my take initially was that, are we going to showcase him, or are we going to try to develop him and maybe bring in the reins and give him some tough love? As far as the challenge call goes, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. I think that I'm all for it, especially being an aspiring member of the media. It adds, because also it's going to be interesting to see how coaches use it. I believe you can only, at a certain point it goes away. You can only use one, even if right or wrong. But I'm all for it, man. I'm all for the progression of it. We've all seen those plays. There's going to be nights where we're pissed. I guess the door that it's opening up for is throwing the challenge and then missing the call anyway, right? And that's the type of shit I know for me when I'm watching NFL and that happens, that's the type of shit that makes me turn it off, right? When the challenge flag goes down and then they don't overturn it, because again, it's the subjective, the gray area is conclusive evidence, right? And so that's just a very subjective thing, man. That's tough. Yeah, yeah. Don, when you found me, the Aisha memes were hilarious. Do I think Steph has 5 years left? I'm just throwing a random number out there. What is he, 31? Is he going on 32? I mean, I think he's going to play another 4 or 5 years. Yeah, barring something happening to the ankles or whatever. I like that, Matt. Matt said Pop's gonna challenge the jump ball. He's like, hey, you didn't throw that shit up, right? That was right? To prove a point. I'm interested in the strategy behind it more so than the challenge, because we've kind of already seen how the refs will do it, right? Within the final 2 minutes, we've already seen the process of it. Now it'll be interesting to see on what calls they use it, because you're right, Matt, bringing it up about that. I don't think necessarily it could be, you could say, all right, I'm going to save it until 90 seconds left in a game for an out of bounds call. But sometimes it's a play in the second quarter that's just a huge momentum swinger. And are you going to use it on, let's say Steph picks up a third foul early in the second quarter? Will you use that on that to try to reverse the foul call on your star so he can play freely the rest of the game? Or are you going to hold it for like a bang bang play at the end of the game? There's going to be some strategy behind it, man. Tony's talking about Steph gets the attention very naturally and fluidly. He does it so naturally from his persona and his genuine likability. Aisha seems to want the same attention, but forcefully, which backfires. Very well said, Tony. Right there, I was talking, and my wife, she pushes back on me, and that's good, as she should. But I'm like, yeah, there's something about it that just kind of bugs me. It's a little bit of entitlement. It's not natural, and I think that's what everybody's feeling. There's something incongruent with it, and the internet, they're gonna hate anyway because of their lifestyle and who they are. So it's a mixture of things. So Willie Cauley-Stein, I'm excited. I was browsing Warriors World, and someone said, "Oh, I think you guys are gonna be really disappointed in Willie Cauley. He only rebounded this. He just ran off a stat sheet." And I was like, but did you watch him play? Because there's so many variables. Like, yeah, he's not a grinder. Willie Cauley is not a workhorse, right? But he's very talented and very athletic in his decent basketball IQ. And so, yeah, some of the numbers do lie. If you watch his game, I do think Willie Cauley's going to have a great year, and I'm excited to see him play. The problem is I think he's definitely going to play. Next year's contract, it's a player option. So it's kind of a one and done deal. It's kind of a DeMarcus scenario, only he's healthy and he fits better. So I like him, but I don't know how Bob could pull his magic of convincing him to stay beyond this. I think he's going to well outplay that little deal that he's on right now. Do you think we will make it to the finals at least one more time, or at least a deep playoff run? TJ, I don't, I can't go. I think we're going to be a perennial playoff team. I think that this, dating back to a video I did a little bit ago talking about a legacy franchise, I think we're always going to be in the mix. We're going to be a powerhouse that's contending. There's going to be retooling, but are we going to be like a dominant dynasty? No. I mean, that's where you had to appreciate that making it to the finals is so hard, man. But yeah, if I were to bet, I think we get back there within this run of the Steph, Clay, and Draymond run. I don't know how long Draymond's going to be here, but yeah, I'd guess it. But so apparently CP3 has a higher Hall of Fame probability than Steph.
Go get the strap.
Nah. Whoever, I don't. Where'd you hear that? Some of that, exactly. And again, me with the names, Shiano Gaming, SG, I apologize for that, but where some of these analytics stuff that you get from like the internet, whatever it is, I don't know how they kick them out. I don't know how they print these algorithms and these stats out. You got to have a mixture. Again, I'm talking about me growing into next season. You expect some more analytics and stats. I'm not going to like bombard you with it, but I'm going to apply more of them to my analysis. You know me, I'm a feel guy, an eye test guy, a psychological. I like the psychology of the sport. Don't get me wrong, that's my bread and butter. But I'm going to blend some analytics into it because I want to get better. Even if I'm not a fan of it, I'm not going to neglect it and be a hater. But some of the analytics and stuff that comes out, you're just like, come on, bro. It completely lets you know that you can't just rely on the numbers, right? Yeah, his motor is a question. And that's where you hope, though. I think there is an argument to be made that being in Sacramento outside of really like a season ago, I think that part of that was a culture thing. Yeah, he's not a high motor. He's not like I remember I said, he's JaVale with half the motor and twice the skills. Like, yeah, he's not that. But I think in a winning environment where there's higher stakes and he can model some of the practices of these guys, then I have some hope for him. Again, it's probably a 1 year thing and he's highly motivated. So I think for this 1 year, he could be the reason that we overachieve this year, that we silence the haters. Obviously, ultimately, Steph has to be healthy and Clay has to come back. Like, right? But outside of the main factors, if Willie Cauley really kind of maximizes this season, then he could be the over-the-top factor that makes us a contender. I'm going to wrap this thing up here pretty soon, but I think this went pretty well. What else do I have here? I don't think I had one more little tidbit on basketball that I thought was crazy. Did y'all see this story? This was shocking to me. So Clutch, is it Clutch? Dang, now I'm butchering their thing. Clutch Sports or Clutch something. It's a media syndicate had a report that we are perhaps going to replace Jim Barnett. Not Fitz, not Bob Fitzgerald, Jim Barnett. And I get it. He's pushing 80. He's in his mid 70s, I believe. But I just want to say I grew up on Jim Barnett, man, and I learned a lot of basketball from him. And that would be a shame. Yeah. And I think they need to watch themselves here because there's a lot of change happening right now. The new arena, there's really a new energy around the team. And you want to change that too right now? So that would be crucial to me, man. It'd be interesting to see. So when I heard that raised my brow. And Fitz, for all the hate that he does get annoying and he is a homer, but he is a lot better than your average dude around the league. If you hop on League Pass, you'll figure that out pretty quickly. But that would be whack, man. Talking about that. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up. Let me see if there are any last questions. Throw me right now that I didn't get to because some of the chat moves a little quick and I ramble off and then I miss your question. But yeah, the Chris Paul thing is going to be interesting in OKC if I have no idea, but apparently Miami's there. I think they came to the realization. I think this is where OKC may have messed up is they thought, okay, well, we'll just, if we moved Russ, then we'll move CP and it's not that. And he may just be stuck there because the buyout, I know people are throwing a buyout thing. Come on, dude. He's making like 41 mil his final year. Yeah, bring in Breen, bring in like an ESPN guy. What if they brought in Mark Jackson? What would y'all do? What would y'all do if they brought in Mark along Fitz? It was Mark Jackson and Fitz. Oh, man. You know what it's been kind of underreported, but it won't be. Okay, let me see here with the Poole. I'll get to that. Andrew's asking who will play more minutes, Poole or Evans. But let me finish this thought is we're going to really learn a lot more about Steve Kerr and his coaching abilities because I'm guilty of it myself, right? It's hard to gauge given what he walked into. You walk in coaching 3-4 Hall of Fame players. It's kind of like, just don't screw this up, right? And so I'm going to be very curious to see him grow as a coach, especially with D'Lo and having to play some of these young players, man. That's going to be a big storyline, I think, for me as I cover the team moving forward. So I think Jacob Evans is going to get more opportunity initially, right? But if Poole can shoot well, I think he's going to find himself playing more ultimately at the end of the season. If Poole is buttery, man. He has when you hear someone say, oh, he's a natural, he's just a ball player. Poole's a ball player, man. He's a ball player. The swag, everything's there. So, but there's no doubt Poole's potential is higher. And if he's knocking 3 balls down, you know that the Warriors are going to value that. And so, but I think initially Evans, I think that there's a pecking order. And I think him being year 2, and I think him putting in the work, we know how Kerr operates, and Kerr initially is going to give Evans more opportunities. From my eyes, that's a foul. Yeah, no, Breen's the shit, right? But do I believe in Portland going to the Western Conference again? And it's I know who you're Nurkic, with Nurkic. So they got Whiteside. I'm not a big Whiteside fan. And then Matt, I'll answer that, and then I'm gonna wrap it. So Portland had acquired this kid, I think from Phoenix, Anthony Simon. And if you go back and watch some of the summer league, the kid went off. And by the way, now that things have slowed down, I'm going to go back, and that's some of the content I'll provide going into this season is going to be going back at summer league and educating and breaking down some of these dudes that are about to come up. And Anthony Simon is a dude who is a legit bomber. He's a legit bucket getter. The release is funny. It's way out in front of his body and low, but he gets it off, and he's got a swagger to him. And I think that was their thinking in letting Seth go and some of the moves they made. I think they're relying on him to be perhaps a third guard. They brought back Hood. I don't know. I think that it's somewhere in between. You see those people that are writing Portland off and saying they're the team that falls out, and then you're writing. Some of people are saying, "Yo, they're going to be like third in the West. They're going to be, watch out for them." I think they'll probably be kind of like what they were, barring any injury. Nurkic should return to being who he is. 1, because of his mindset, he's a beast. And then 2, he's a big that he was lumbering anyway, right? So I think he'll be fine. I don't know about the Whiteside thing. I think that if anybody could bring out him playing well, it's Dame. By all accounts, Dame is that dude. And then, oh man, what was the last question? Okay, Portland. Okay, our starting small forward position. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. I think that that's something that we're going to have to look for in preseason training camp. Off top, Kerr. I think that Big Dog the third would have to do a whole lot in training camp to win that spot, because we've just watched Kerr operate, and Kerr is old school in the sense of pecking order and earning that spot. And McKinney's just been there longer, and clearly Kerr is comfortable with him. He played him more than I really thought he should in some of those moments. And so McKinney, again, will get the nod, but I don't think it's set in stone. I think it's much like the Jacob Evans scenario with Poole. It's like McKinney he's higher on the depth charts, but it's not a lock. He could easily slide back behind Robinson again if he's shooting more, because Robinson, to be clear, has a little more in the bag than McKinney. He's a more natural basketball player. McKinney's a better athlete probably at this stage, right? So we'll see. We'll see. Burke, don't throw. That's a good point. Don't throw Alec Burke out at starting. I went and watched a bunch of highlights of him on his stops last year, and he is. You know what he strikes me though as the thing about Burks is I think he's the most skilled out of McKinney, Robinson, and Burks. Burke is the most skilled, but he needs the ball a little bit more. He's more of an ISO guy. And so I envision the Warriors using him as the third guard to come in and let him just do work, right? And not necessarily run in the system as much, like where he can, because he seems to flourish when he can just kind of ISO and do work. So there's a lot of stuff, man. There's a lot of stuff. I appreciate y'all. I hope this went well, and I'll wrap this up. I will have my first prospect breakdown. I'm gonna do Brandon Clark, a Gonzaga, now in Memphis, and just won Summer League MVP. So expect that next week. Another Alchemy, and then the docu-series will continue. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna dive in on that next, man. But I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a good rest of the weekend. I'm out, y'all.